So long as it's 55 tons or less, it should be okay. If your clans is 50 tons or less, it's 5 less for the clans.
So it depends on contract.
Yes, it does. Innersphere is 55 or less, clans are 50 or less. And the reason for that is the streak crow. A lot of people got upset with the storm crow that had streaks on it back when that was a big deal. And it was such an outcry on the forums, even though it really didn't give as big of an advantage as most people claimed. It was such an outcry that PGI nerfed the clans down to 50 tons specifically to get rid of the storm crow. But now there's even better mechs out there that are 50 tons, like the Huntsman, for example. And,
well, even the Hunchback IIC.
Yeah, even the Hunchback you see a lot now. And so what's happened is the Stormcrow has kind of become obsolete to a certain extent. But they still have it at 50 tons because of the outcry way back when, because people still want it back. Even though nowadays it really wouldn't matter if it was there or not. Most people would still probably wind up taking Huntsman, for example, as their stream platform, just because it can do everything the Stormcrow can do, but better, although at less speed. Alright, let's meet up at the center, Echo 5, Fox 5. We'll go to the upper platform. Don't shoot yet. So no weapons free yet. Talk a bit about the builds that I see, and then we'll go ahead and we'll launch after that. Generally speaking, for scouting, I like to have 2 mechs. I like to have a medium, and I like to have a light. The light's typically something like, if it's the Inner Sphere, it's like a Locust with ECM, the Pirate's Bane. I like it because it's fast, it has ECM, it's hard to hit, it's hard to find. So I can do what's called smoke diving very well with it. I can go collect data points, then I can go jump in the smoke and trigger the dropship right there at the end and win. The other one that I typically run for Inner Sphere is this Yinla Wang. It's fast, it doesn't have a lot of frontal firepower, but it has decent DPS and is cool running. I usually move in behind the bushwhackers or whoever's on my team, and then I just start picking guys apart with the AC-20.
Target acquired.
Let's see. Ron, you've got the bushwhacker. That's actually a really frightening scouting mech there, Ron.
New target acquired.
Let's see.
That's what I use most of the time.
Studio's got a very good bushwhacker. It's a solid build. It would be really good for the pugging queue, but I wouldn't run it in scouting because of the Gauss rifle. Gauss rifles are not as effective in scouting, where most of the fighting takes place in brawling range.
Yeah, I was just playing around with it.
10-4. Yeah, that's fine. If you wanted to bring that, that's cool. I'm saying more for Napalm's benefit. Because the Gauss rifle crits easily and explodes when damaged, when you are in this... Oh, hang on 1 second. Sorry, that was a family member calling me on the phone. Anyways, but because it crits when exploded, when you get into that brawling scenario and you've got 2 or 3 mechs shooting at yours if they happen to prioritize you first, then there's a really good chance that the Gauss will be stripped off your mech and you could be killed from the explosion.
Roger.
New target acquired.
Then let's look at your Enforcer. That's not a bad Enforcer build. I like the build, and like I said about Studio's Bushwhacker, it's a really good build for the quick play queue, but it's not quite as good of a build for faction play. And again, mainly because on scouting you're brawling, and you have to have a lot of face time to make those large lasers hit. What you may want to consider doing, I have this 4R as well, and I love that mech, is you may want to consider pulse lasers. I ran one for a while that had 3 medium pulse and 2 large pulse, and it was hot, but it was really good. If that's a little hotter than you like, you could run something like... I'm trying to remember what's on that mech. I remember it's got 5 energy.
Yeah, it's got a ballistic on the arm.
I was going to say, I think it had the 1 ballistic. You could run like an LBX-10, for example, with 4 large pulse, I think. You might have to run XL, though. If you wanted to run a fusion engine, you could run some medium lasers with the LBX, and it still would be a good build. You get nice brawling capability out of that, decent range. Or it could go just like 5 medium pulse with a lot of heat sinks, and you wouldn't ever really overheat. You can put a really, really big standard engine in it too, so you can move fast without losing your torso and dying, or losing your torso and losing some of your capabilities. Hey Remus, welcome to the group.
Hey, thanks.
So basically, there's different for scouting. There's different tactics. You can go slower and more powerful, like the bushwhackers. You can go kind of medium across the board, like the enforcers or the centurions. Or you can do what I like to do, which is take a mech like this one, which is the Centurion Yinlawang. I put a whopping huge XL in it, so I move 105 kph. And then I put an AC-20 and 2 medium pulses on it, so I'm basically moving really fast with really good agility, and agility that most of the other mediums and up don't have in the game anymore. And I can use this AC-20 to just pound guys relentlessly during the fight. It's got, if I recall correctly, I think it's 10% bonus cooldown on the ballistic, and then 15% specific on the AC-20, plus 10% for the weapon tree. So I get like a 35% cooldown bonus on this AC-20, which is a frightening cooldown bonus. But this is a high risk, high reward mech because it does run XL. For scouting, most people would rather run standard or light fusion. Light fusion gives you the tonnage, and it is a little weaker than standard, since if you lose a torso, you lose some of your speed. But it's better than XL, since you're not going to die if you lose a side torso. And generally speaking, the best weapons to use are pulse lasers, SRMs. If you're going to mount a heavy ballistic, then a pinpoint ballistic is
New
good.
target acquired.
Like an AC-20 or something. LBX is also decent because the reload time on it is quick. Other things that are typically not used are LRMs, for example. Those are very poor for scouting unless you have a 4-man that's dedicated to that and can really use them effectively. Also, Gauss rifles, like I mentioned before. MRMs, you see some of those. They're very powerful, but they require face time, and a fast-moving target can dodge a lot of them or spread damage. So they're kind of a double-edged sword. Maybe you'll do a lot of damage, maybe you won't. It depends on who your enemies are and how good you are with that weapon. And that's pretty much it. I mean, really, what you're looking for with scouting is think of it as, okay, I'm going to be brawling somebody, several somebodies on a team. And what do I want for brawling? What do I want for speed? Do I want to collect data and escape? Or do I want to go for kills and damage? I mean, you have to kind of look at that, answer those questions with the 2 mech bays you're given. Fill those mech bays with the 2 mechs that you want, and then you can toggle between them in the loading screen for the lobby. Any questions on that?
Not for me.
Okay, any other scouting questions or faction warfare questions?
No.
No?
I think it's more for me the faction war strategies I don't understand are
Okay.
for the defending the orbital cannon.
Okay, we'll talk about that one too. Why don't we go ahead and brawl it up real quick, and then we'll grab Ramus and bring him in as well.
Sick.
What size mech should I bring?
We're bringing mediums.
Okay.
I thought my mech seemed less twitchy than usual. My mouse sensitivity was off. I had it set on my Fallout 4 setting.
You guys are already deployed?
New target acquired.
Yeah, we're finishing up this private match.
Sure.
Acquired. All destroyed. Level critical. Override engaged.
The enemies are half depleted.
Target
Keep
destroyed.
pushing. We're taking
New
critical
target
losses. We
acquired.
need you to pull through.
Acquired.
Clean up the survivors.
New target acquired. Heat level critical.
Flipping like crazy.
Heat level critical. Critical damage. Interpersonal critical damage. Auto count at 25%.
Ground forces. We're detecting no more hostiles.
Couldn't fire the last shot because I'd blow up if I did. My heat gauge is maxed out. Good fight, guys. Okay, so the thing about the inland wing is it's quick, but those bushwhackers have a
I
lot of
know why my
firepower.
mouse was wonky. It was set for Overwatch.
Oh, I noticed you're
My
missing with
son
some
was
of your
playing
SRMs.
Overwatch and I didn't
It looks like you're
rearrange
having
it.
some trouble aiming. Was Overwatch cutting in and eating some of your...
Plus my middle mouse button, my scroll wheel button doesn't work. I got a clean or something.
10 and 4. Alright, let's pick a Ramos. Says he's already in the group, but he's not in the lobby.
I hit ready.
Yeah, we're in a private lobby and trying to invite you to the lobby.
Did I leave group and try again?
I just sent you an invite. Let me know if you got it. Ah, now it's suddenly you come in. There we go.
There we go.
Weird. Okay. Let me see if it'll let me pick a... It's just not. I was really hoping it was going to let me pick a invasion map, but it's not going to let me do it.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that would have been helpful. We could station ourselves around the gun and talk about strategies that way. Well, we can talk about it a little bit. We can drop on Crimson, I can pick a building, we can pretend it's the orbital gun or something, and talk about general concepts, although we won't be able to discuss anything map specific since we don't have a specific design to use.
Yeah. I've played quite a few of them. I just find it super, like, it seems like everybody does it differently, and I don't know what the actual proper strategy is.
That's because there really isn't any, what's the word I'm looking for, any consistent strategy across people. What you're looking at more is a consistent strategy across large groups. So individual people jump in, they play whatever they want to play because they have to, A, fill out the proper tonnage requirement, B, run whatever they have, and they're bound by what they can afford. Not everybody that plays can afford the right weapons and equipment. And then C, because it is faction warfare, there is no tier or skill gating, so everybody's thrown together. It's also groups versus solos, so you wind up with some groups that will be coordinated with a certain strategy, mixed in with other groups that don't have the same strategy, mixed in with solo players that might know what they're doing or might not know what they're doing, but probably won't match those groups. So you wind up with this hodgepodge of who knows what they're doing. The players that have played a lot, generally speaking, what you will see is they will bring a long-range mech, they'll bring a close-range mech, and typically a couple mid-range mechs. The idea is you'll take the long-range mech if you're attacking to open the gate and deal with the people at long range to soften your enemy before you make your push inside. You can also use it to take out lots of the turrets before you actually get close enough to engage them directly. Mid-range mechs are typically in the middle. That lets you get in there and deal damage to guys and take out remaining turrets with minimal exposure, it also lets you hit the generators and deal damage to them without having to get too close to the spawn point. The close range builds are typically the last wave, often fast moving brawlers. That way you can get in there fast, do lots of damage to the generator, and knock it out. And of course different groups have different strategies, but typically when I'm running, that's what I do. And what you'll see me do is I'll take, for example, with the Inner Sphere, I might take like a Battle Master and a Victor, and the Victor will have MRMs on it specifically for killing generators, because MRMs are very effective against generators. The Battle Master will be like my mid-range, kill enemies, kill turrets, damage generators kind of a build. The Victor's kind of like my close-up, hit it hard, kill the generators build. I'll bring, what else will I bring? I'll typically bring a Hunchback, like a Gridiron, with long-range Gauss for dealing with turrets and walls and such, and for softening foes. And then the last mech is typically like a Hunchback 4G, something with good brawling that can take a lot of punishment for its chassis weight, but also put a lot of damage out. And that's one drop deck. The other drop deck will typically be like Thunderbolts and Warhammers. And again, I'll usually have a long-range mech, a brawling mech, and a couple mid-range.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, as far as like defending goes, again, it's a similar strategy, because it's going to be they're trying to take out the gates first and push in, so you want a long-range mech to soften them up before they come in the gate. After the gates are open, they've got a coherent strategy. I usually bring like a couple of mid-range mechs that can hit them as they're trying to move up through the area, since they're going to try to stay at range. That way I can hit them effectively without having to cross all the open ground myself
Reactor
to get close to hit them.
online.
But also
Sensors
better DPS than a
online.
long-range build, since I'll now
Weapons
be
online.
in the mid-range area anyways.
Hmm.
And then for the final wave, I'll bring like a fast-moving brawler so that I can get in there and
This
mix
is
it up with
command.
them.
Eliminate
And they
all
bring very
enemies,
fast
no
moving
matter the
brawlers.
cost.
Kind of like picking the same strategy and using it to counter theirs, but trying to play it better than they are. And like I said, if you have a large group, it's better, because then you can all coordinate your mechs, coordinate your builds, and you just have better synergy as a result. That's me to the upper platform again. Don't shoot just yet. Now, as far as like where you position yourself and everything, typically you want to stay close to the main gun and have a couple scouts at the gates. And once you find out which gate they're pressing, you'll head to that gate to defend against them. And if like a single mech or two slips through, it's no big deal. Turrets are usually enough to deal with them. But if you have like a lance that fakes you out and goes around, then that's a problem, because they'll take out the guns and then get to the generators.
I think part of my problem is my drop deck construction, then, because most of what you're saying makes sense to me.
Having a strong drop deck really helps. If you bring a deck, for example, that's mostly brawlers, then at the early part of the match, you won't really be effective. They'll be poking and softening and opening gates and taking out turrets, and you'll be hunkered down waiting, basically. But by the same token, if you bring all long-range mechs, you won't be able to do anything late game, because you won't have the DPS or the speed when it really matters. Most people will also bring their heaviest mechs in the first two waves and attempt to completely crush the opposition. I believe in bringing heavies in the first two waves, but I like to save my heaviest mech, or one of my heaviest mechs, for the last wave. So that way I've got some firepower when they're not really expecting it.
Yeah, I think that I'm gonna take my catapult out of my drop deck, because it's not, it doesn't perform very well, and I might switch it out for an assault so that I have like a battle master,
Target
my mauler,
acquired.
my enforcer, and my wolfhound.
Battlemaster, Enforcer, Wolfhound, and what?
Mauler and
Mauler.
yeah.
Mauler's a good mech.
I really like my mauler.
I love my Maulers. I'm so glad I got them.
I also really like my wolfhound. Even though I think there's far better light mechs.
Wolfhounds are a good tanky light. They're hard to kill, they're obnoxious as all get out to the enemy, and they can actually mount a pretty decent amount of damage too.
I've got 3 ER large lasers on mine.
That's not bad.
I just like to kind of be annoying from a distance.
If you're going to run faction play, you might want to consider swapping those for pulse lasers and then making it your wave 3 or wave 4 generator killer.
Yeah,
You can rush in and deal damage with high DPS, and you can move quickly through buildings and all that too. Now let's say, let's see an example. This map is so different from all the other maps. That's the issue. Each one's very unique. Let's just say this central area is the orbital gun. Right here where Ramos is standing. We'll say that's the orbital gun area. Ramos, you are the orbital gun. Don't move. The key to killing it is you have to move through and hit the generators. Let's say that that box I'm shooting right there is the generator. We'll say that garage I'm shooting over there is a generator. And we'll say that thing with the pipes coming out of it is a generator in the saddle. Typically what most of the groups will do is they'll push them with the first wave, soften the enemy, deal whatever damage they can. But the first wave is kind of a write-off wave. It's a lot of the assault mechs, a lot of the firepower, sure, but they know they're going to lose them all in the first wave. The whole point to it is how many of the enemy's mechs can we cripple or kill to try to keep the scores even. The whole point is to kill a lot of the static defenses so that they are not there to help the defenders next round. It's also to take out the heaviest guns that the enemy has. Now, for Innisphere versus clans, the Innisphere does have a tonnage advantage in the first two waves. They do have more tonnage than the clans, and so they really need to use it in those first two waves to crush the clans. The clans, of course, have a lot more firepower and better range, so it's up to the Innisphere to push in close and deal damage. Of course, using their long-range mechs in the opening engagement to soften the clanners up, and then pushing in close to the assaults to shred them. Because once the clans lose their big mechs in the first wave or two, they don't really have any tonnage left. They're very thin on tonnage compared to the Innisphere. The Innisphere, in the last two waves, can typically still throw in some heavies, and some of those mechs, like the Warhammer, could be very frightening. Marauders too are pretty decent. So for the clans, it's crucial to stop the Innisphere in the first two waves. For the Innisphere, it's crucial to survive the first two waves with roughly equivalent within 1 to 3 kills of their scores. If they can do that, they stand a chance at beating the clans, but if they can't, then the clans are likely to win. For the clans, you'll see a lot of ER weaponry for opening engagements. For closer up, you'll see a lot of the heavy weaponry, like heavy mediums, heavy larges in particular. Those are very effective at killing enemy mechs, damaging them, or generators. The Innisphere just can't get into the poke game. The clans own the poke game, especially in the invasion game modes. In invasion, clan poke is king. So for the Innisphere, they want to use some long-range builds like light Goss or ER larges, for example, to soften while they're opening those gates. But once the gates are open, it's all about how close can we get and how much damage can we output with those MRMs and pulse lasers and such. And if they can get close enough and output enough damage using that tonnage, they'll beat the clans. Any specific questions on invasion or different things like that?
I think that covered my questions.
Okay. Remember I mentioned those 3 things you're going to play the generators? So
Yes.
as you're attacking, what the teams will typically do is after they've done that initial engagement, they've got the gates open, they soften the enemy, the first wave is dead. If they're lucky, the first wave will put damage on the generators, but typically that's the job of the second and third waves. Those waves will come in, their job is to fight their way, limiting the amount of damage they're taking while maximizing the amount they're outputting to get to the generators. Once they're there, what most units will do is have 2, maybe 3 pilots shoot the generators, because you can't really get more than that on the generators. The reason being is you only have that little window to look through. And if you position your mechs carefully, you could get 2, 3, maybe 4 different angles of fire on that. More than that, you would just get in each other's way. So most units will put a couple of guys dedicated, usually with MRMs or something like that works extremely effectively against generators, to killing the generators. Everybody else will form a protective cordon around them to make sure that they are not interrupted. Once that generator's dead, let's say it's Gen 1, they'll move to Gen 2, which is up there on the hill. And of course, they're getting shot at the whole time and damaged, but they're just moving all the way up there. Has anybody seen the movie Ender's Game?
Yes.
Okay, so you're familiar with the end of the movie. I don't want to give spoilers for those who haven't seen it. But
I know where you're going with this.
okay, so the whole point of it is protect the couple mechs that are designed to kill Ogens. Everybody else acts as the shield. And you escort those mechs, and they are killing Ogens. We have a guy in our unit, his name is Scrom. I don't know if you met him yet. But he likes to take a Cyclops with like 4 or 5 MRM systems on it. He has a whopping amount of MRMs. And typically I'll pair with him. I'll bring a Victor with triple MRM 20s. And our 2 mechs can pretty much, with a single Alpha Strike, you know, we'll look at the generator and we'll both Alpha Strike at the same time. We will one-shot that generator. Just about. Everybody else just has to keep us alive and get us from Ogen to Ogen. If they can do that in one wave, great. That's the best time because that's when we have those mechs available. If not, then we'll come in the second wave, or the third wave. I mean, we'll try to do it the third wave. But that's the whole point of killing the Ogens, is get those gen killer mechs to the generators, and then after that it's okay if everybody dies because the generators are down. And of course, most of the time you're trying to make sure your scores are roughly equivalent. The third wave, or the fourth wave, third wave's typically for finishing any Ogens that aren't dead. If they're all dead, that's a bonus wave essentially to go after the Omega gun itself. And typically that wave is, again, you're going to have a few guys shooting at it and a few guys trying to hold mechs off. The defenders, if they're good, will just ignore the mechs that are shooting them and go for the ones shooting the generator. The orbital cannon. But a lot of mechs, especially if you have a high number of pugs in your team, will get distracted by the ones shooting at them and go for them instead, which just gives the guy shooting the gun more time to kill the gun. So if you're defending, you want to look at the enemy mechs and say which ones are actually a threat to me and which ones are actually a threat to the generator, and you want to shoot the ones that are a threat to the generator. If you're attacking, you want to say which guys are shooting the generator and how can I protect them. And then the last wave is typically the fast-moving brawlers, and at that point, it's usually a Zerg rush. Most of the turrets are dead, defenders are crippled up on the last few mechs they've got, everybody's running low on tonnage, so you rush in and you just dish out as much damage to the generator as you can before they kill you, and if you do that with 12 mechs, you'll usually kill it. For the defenders, of course, you're trying to stop them. You could go all brawl and try to rush in close and hold them at the gates, which can be difficult if the clans are playing the poke game. Because they can sit outside those gates and snipe at you. On certain maps it will work though. For example, Boreal Vault. That if you can get to the gates mostly intact, the clans have to come through those gates. They don't have a choice, and those gates are very well hidden on the other side. They can't really see over them. There's no real way to get angles over the wall. So if you're stationed properly, they can't hit you or poke you. So you'll sit there and let the timer run down. They'll have to come in, and then you can brawl them at close range where they're at a major disadvantage. Other maps, it's a little more difficult. Grim Portico, for example, has a lot of little alleyways for them to shoot through. I'm drawing a blank. The red one that's really hot with the HPG style topography. I can't remember what that one's called off the top of my head. But they have, again, lots of angles, and jump jetting mechs can easily get over the gate, hide up in the buildings, and shoot down on you.
You mean Rubelite?
No, not Rubelite. I'm talking about an invasion map. I'm just drawing a blank on what it's called.
Oh, is it the one with that blue sun?
Yes, it's the one with the blue sun.
God, I hate that map so much.
It's one of the hottest maps in the game. It's got that ridiculously long walk across all those craters.
And I find it just hard to see in general.
It is.
And I'm a huge fan of thermal vision, but obviously thermal vision useless on that map.
Yep.
Oh, that's the worst.
It is. But, you know, different maps, different strategies. Knowing which map, the people that are really hardcore at it, I'm not as high. Oh, RL Stoneblaze says Vitric Forge. Thank you, RL. He's watching on the stream. Vitric Forge is the Blue Sun hot one. I can never remember that name. But it will depend on your strategy. The people that play the map, play the mode regularly, will look at it and they can tell which game mode is coming up next. There's indicators ahead of time, and I can't remember, but I think the maps might be tied to it, or they might be random. I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't play it quite frequently enough to know that level of detail, I'm afraid. But they'll have their stuff, their strategies, all that stuff all together for each mode that they go in for. and they'll just swap between their drop decks. I just have the two standard drop decks you get, and I just run 2 generic decks that can handle most anything thrown at us, and that's what I run. I have one deck kitted out exclusively for invasion offense when we're going for the generators and the orbital gun. The other deck is like a general purpose deck that I use for defending the orbital gun, as well as any of the other invasion mode matches that you may come across. It's a mech with 4 heavies. It's a deck with 4 heavy mechs. And then the one kitted out exclusively for attacking the Ogen gun is 2 assaults and 2 mediums. Any other questions or comments?
So we're switching to clan in a few days, yeah?
We typically do, the way we do contracts is we do 1 month at a time, generally speaking.
Okay.
The reason for that is to give folks a little bit of time to build points. Since we are casual, not everybody gets the same play time, and some folks are more intermittent than others. So it gives everybody kind of a chance to get in there and play for the faction they want. It's also a bit of a holdover from before they did the 1 week contracts. 1 month was pretty much the smallest contract you could get, and it was the most utilitarian of them. Once they went to 1 week, we just do 4 weeks in a row. After Kurita is up, we will swap to clans, and we'll be 100% clan at that point for 4 weeks, and then we'll swap back to the Innisphere.
Okay, awesome. I was trying really hard to grind so I could afford another Timberwolf before we switched.
Nope, you got 3 more weeks.
Wait.
Typically, let me think. Timberwolves are what, 12 million? 15 million?
The D is 15.
15? Yeah, the way I
just
crunch
bought
the
this one,
numbers, if you have premium time, it should take you about 7 or 8 hours to crunch 10 million C-bills, I think is right.
The way I was doing it was exclusively through faction drops, because with our contract, and if we win, I get about 1 million C-bills for one of those.
That is the way to do it, but like you said, if you win. Faction warfare is really feast or famine. So if you're not winning, then you're typically not making the money to make it worth the time. I can tell you, if you're doing only solo pugging, it's about 7 or 8 hours to get 10 million.
Sweet.
But if you're doing faction warfare and you're winning, you can do it in half the time. Well, I shouldn't say half the time, but probably you can shave 2-3 hours off that. And yes, like Rama says, if you wait for sales, it will save you hours in grinding. I did the numbers another time and found that they had a 35% off sale, C-bill sale on the Timberwolves at one point, and it knocked off 2 hours of your grinding.
Nice. I think one of my biggest mistakes was that I bought 1 mech in each weight class first.
Ouch. Yeah, that'll
for Inner Sphere. And now I realize that my heavy catapult I almost don't want to run. So.
Which catapults do you have?
I bought the C4.
Oh, that's the one that's only missile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one...
Well, it's got some laser quirks, and it's got 2 energy mounts on the torso.
Is that the 6 missile 2 energy?
I think it's
Or is it the
4
missile 2 energy?
4 missile 2 energy.
A lot of people will run like 4 SRM systems and 2 medium pulse and that, and it's scary up close, to be honest with you. It is a frightening mech. But it is also a feast or famine mech, because you have to get so close, and it's such a boxy mech, it's really easy to hit. And you can lose those ears and those SRMs pretty easily too.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to get into cover with.
It is. So again, it's kind of a feast or famine mech. Alright, 3 minutes left. You guys want to brawl it up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, weapons open.
New target acquired. Target acquired.
I'm stuck.
I see you stuck. That's funny.
Target acquired.
I was wondering what all this screen shake was
Override
about.
engaged.
I'm shooting AC-20s at you, and some of them are just going through you and not even doing damage. You're warping incredibly.
Heat level critical.
Yeah, even my lasers are doing damage. Oh, that one did.
Level critical.
Hang on a sec, I'll put you out of misery. Really aggravated. I'm shooting your rear torso, it's dealing damage to your front center torso.
Yes, yes, it is.
25% of the enemies are
Level
eliminated.
critical.
We're taking critical losses. We need you to pull through. The enemies are half depleted. Keep pushing.
Yeah, they're shooting me from below. I was trying to help Napalm get unstuck by jolting him with AC-20 rounds.
To make you aware of it from previous experience, if you're looking to buy premium time, they usually have it go on sale around Christmas time.
Yes.
Thereafter.
They just had a huge Black Friday sale, but they'll probably have another one around Christmas.
Yeah, and that's usually when I buy premium time. I think it's like $50 for almost a year.
We've almost got
Yeah,
them
it's
all.
not bad. Oh, you
Clean up
guys
the
are fighting. I thought
survivors.
you were hunting me together. I should have jumped down there and fought you together. Yes, watch for sales. They're the best time to buy. Some things I never buy, for example, champion mechs are kind of a waste of money. It has no benefits over a standard variant other than that you earn XP more quickly. But it's just XP, which you can earn anyways. And once you have fully skilled out a mech, there's no real benefit to having XP boosts on that mech. But C-build boosts are forever. So if you're going to spend money on, like, actual hard money on a chassis, I would get a hero variant over a...
Command to ground
Oh,
forces.
time's up. I
We're
was looking for
detecting
it.
no more
Find it.
hostiles. Good job, soldiers.
Yeah, I do have the hero urban mech.
Okay. Yeah,
Because sometimes you need an urban mech to be a real man.
yeah, I hear that. But yeah, heroes are better than champions because they give you a bonus that's more functional and more useful for you over the long run.
Wait.
Alrighty, guys. It's about 10 o'clock. We have any other questions or concepts for training night that y'all would like to cover? Anything at all? Open forum.
I'm good.
Okay, Ramos, Ron, Studio.
I'm good for now.
10.
Thanks
No problem.
for hosting. It's always great.
Hey, no problem. I'll put this on YouTube probably tomorrow night, or tomorrow at some point. All right, if everybody's good, I think what I'll do is call it a night for now. I've got to go return that phone call. But anyways, glad you guys enjoyed it, and I do have that YouTube playlist up. I should post that. Let me get that for y'all real quick.
Thank you for the time for hosting it.
No problem. I try to do it every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. For some reason, the website keeps changing the time to 10 p.m. Eastern. I don't know why. I've changed it 2 or 3 times, and I keep going back in there, and like once a month it changes back. I can't figure it out. So just keep in mind it's 9 p.m., not 10, even if the calendar says 10. Where is the playlist? Looking for the training night playlist so I can post it for Napalm. There we go.
You posting it in TeamSpeak?
Yeah, as soon as I get the share link. YouTube makes you jump through so many hoops to get the share link now. There we go. It's a lot of videos. I wouldn't expect you to watch them all. But you can look through the titles, and if there's a subject that you want to look up, then you can check the video out. It might be helpful. Also, we have a training night thread. You can always post in that thread too. We write back and forth in there as well.
Awesome.
To the thread next.
Right click, copy.
There is a learning curve to the game, and training nights do help out a lot.
Yep. There's the thread. And then
I don't know.
one last
I find this game always kind of surprises me. Like, the first time I dropped with an ECM mech, and I realized I could switch from Disrupt to, I think, Jam.
Yes.
It's like, I have no concept of what the difference is. So then you sit there furiously reading the wiki.
Alright, I have a new question because I totally forgot.
Yeah.
How do you shut down the laser AMS again? What button is that?
I believe it's the same as the standard AMS. It should be the tilde key by default.
Tilt key?
Tilde, yep, right above the tab. Also, you can use your arrow keys and you can highlight the AMS individually and then hit right control to toggle it on and off. But tilde is the shortcut by default.
I always forget that one.
If that's not it, I would double check your controls in case you remapped it. But I think laser AMS and standard AMS both have the same hotkey.
I still use the standard board layout, so. But I couldn't remember what it was that I was like surfing and looking over it, and I'm like, oh, how do you do that again?
Yeah, I almost never turn mine off, but sometimes you get in that situation, you're like, oh, I'm behind cover. It's like, no, stop shooting, you stupid AMS. I need that ammo for when I go out of cover. You're like, which button is it? And you watch
I was in one of my assault specs. I was running hot anyways, but I was giving everybody AMS cover. That was never cooling down, so I was like, I want to shut it off.
Somebody, was it Brad Guy? I can't remember who it was. They ran triple lambs. I think it was triple lambs on a mech. I can't remember what it was. Or it might have been double lambs or something. And they had all the upgrades to make it shoot faster and farther and whatnot. And we were on Terra Therma. And he was running an energy mech. It was just a bad drop for him. But they were running solid LRMs on the enemy team, and he was hunkered down behind a rock, and everybody else was trying to find cover. Not everybody could get cover because you know how the central crater of Terra Therma is. And his lambs were going non-stop. He was freaking out because he's like, I'm at 92% heat and it's not going up or down. He's like, I can't cool off, but I don't dare turn off my lambs. We need them.
Yeah, that's the Kid Fox, isn't it?
No, I think he had a medium mech. I can't remember what it was.
Because that happened to me in the Kid Fox. I put 3 laser AMS on it, and I basically almost overheated while standing around the group without doing anything else.
Yeah, I just run standard ammo because I usually run my mechs hot already, so I don't want the lambs making them hotter than they need to be.
Yeah, so I put on 2 standard and then 1 laser as a backup.
10 and 4. Well, I posted 3 links. The first one's the YouTube playlist for training videos. There's over 40 videos, so like I said, don't sit there and try to watch them all. You'll drive yourself crazy if you do. But you can look through the topics if you ever need to brush up on something. Also, if you ever just want to go back and look at stuff like, oh yeah, I want to see, we're not married to that stupid thing, whatever, you can go check that out too. Also, there is the official training night thread that I posted. That's the one we use for most of the communication regarding training night, as well as any questions, topics, etc. I need to go back through, might do it this weekend, and better organize the thread. It's got some age on it, and I need to go through and do some cleaning on it. And then the third post is my official new player start guide. And even though it's geared toward new players, it's also kind of a library of information and links that you can use to check things out. So if you want to look up, say, the critting system, for example, I have a link at the end of it that leads to another person's guide on crits. And I have a link to PGI's official heat guide and ghost heat. Lots of stuff like that is in that new player guide. And so I usually point even veteran players to it, like, hey, go check this out, and go to the bottom for the other resources. It even has stuff externally, like how to download TeamSpeak, for example, or whatever, which you obviously have. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. But it's helpful from that perspective too.
Yeah, that's actually good because I need to look up some information about the skills system.
Yep, and it also has a link in there, I think, to Fat Four Eyes. He has a series called Mech Warrior Tactics Comics or something. I can't remember what it's called. But
I've seen those, I think.
Okay, good.
The Tactics 101 comics?
Yeah, that's what it is. Tactics 101.
Yeah.
They are amusing as all get out.
Yeah, I saw those. Those were good. I
need to see if Bandito's Calvin and Hobbes comics are in there. If not, I need to add them. He was taking Calvin and Hobbes, which, are you familiar with that comic strip?
Yes, I am.
Okay, he was taking Calvin and Hobbes, he was editing them to be Mech Warrior oriented, and they were absolutely hilarious.
Nice.
Alrighty. Well, with that, I'm going to have to log off for the night. Like I said, I got to return this phone call. I had a sibling that